So this is Annalisa, and I will present you, together with Yanis, the generic informed consent form for the ERN registries, the final product. So, as most of you may know, the European Reference Network are struggling in setting up an informed consent form for registries applicable to all contexts. And the generic informed consent form that was developed for the ERN Clinical Patient Management System, the CPMS, which includes the submission of patient data to the ERN registries, does not seem to be accepted by all ethics committees. This was the starting point of our work based on the ERCnet experience. So within EJP RD, an Informed Consent Facilitation Group has been established, including members from the AREB, the Advisory Regulatory and Ethics Board, and we work on the ELSI issues, specifically GDPR compliance in the framework of ethics submission, and the GDPR harmonized framework, the Informed Consent Form adaptation. So during the meeting that we had in December 2020, 2 ways to go forward were proposed, and according to the results of the vote, we work on the research targeted ICF. So, but how we start? We start with analysis of the general ICF provided by France related to the ERCnet. And we analyze also the ethics committee's comments and the rejection letters that have been provided to this generic ICF. We also work on the analysis of the amended ICF following the rejection letters and the comments, and we analyze also the GDPR provision Article 13, where there are the provisions related to the information of data subjects. In addition, we consult other sources that I will present you later, and we scout existing ontologies. We start working on the draft of the new ICF template, and we request the contribution of internal and external experts. And we will now in the finalization process of the ICF template. So the sources that have been consulted are material from the ERCnet, VASCERN, Eurobladnet, and ERECA, and we also analyzed other materials such as the EMPREMA guideline and the informed consent form provided by Irene of BBM-RAI related to the IMI project Do It. So we work also on the existing ontologies in order to complete parts that would allow for human and automated access conditions and reuse. So we scout existing ontologies such as the data use ontology, the informed consent ontology, and also the ADA model. Here we draft the additional fields and information that we found relevant to be included in the original ICF, and we ask for contribution to the Informed Consent Facilitation Group, including AREB members, to the work-focused distributed federated consent control of Pillar 2, and we ask for contribution also to the ERN representatives. So the informed consent template created may be used for participants and for parents or legally designated representatives of minors or vulnerable participants. The adaptation are allowed, so the ERN ICF may be adapted and completed at ERN level, national level, and site level. You can find different parts that are highlighted in yellow, blue, and green that can be highlighted at these different levels. Since we found different requests for information and for addition at also at site level from ethics committees. So we introduce different changes in the informed consent template. For example, we include an introduction part. We include information on the storage location and storage duration of data. We include information on what will be done with data after the withdrawal, details of the responsible figures according to the General Data Protection Regulation, such as the DPO, the data controller, the supervisory authority, and the contact person. And we include also information on the ethical, regulatory, and data protection framework related to the ICF. We also include more detailed information about the subject rights, information on people having access to data, more detailed information about the purposes and further purposes of data processing activities, and information about how the result will be communicated to the participant. So in addition, we also include the sentence that a copy will be provided to the patient parent, and we include the signature of the researcher that was missing. So now I will leave the floor to Yanis that will show you the informed consent template now, how it is now.
Thank you, Annalisa. So I am sharing my screen. I also posted in the chat the informed consent version that is annotated with the different ontology terms. You need to use your EJP RD email and password in order to get access to it. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. So this is the ontology-free version that we have cleaned in order to show you how it looks like. So as Annalisa mentioned, it starts with the introductory part for the patient or the parent or legal guardian, where you will precise the disease or group diseases, the patient condition. Then we have a part about the registry. So it describes the patient registries and the European reference network, stating what are European reference networks, why do they need data in order to understand disease and investigate new diagnosis and treatment, how to gather and pull these data into databases, and what kind of data could be recorded inside. And then it will be up to you to customize these templates to your ERN by including introduction to your ERN, to the name of the registry, and the link to the registry page that you are going or you are having on your website. Afterwards, we suggest to provide a very short description about the disease condition and the burdens that you encounter during your daily activity in order to provide more or less a rationale on why this registry is needed. And we have provided also some examples inside. Of course, it has to be short and it's not a long paragraph. The ICF is already 5 pages for the information part and 2 pages for the consent part. After the introduction of the patient registries, we will go more into detail into the patient data. So we state the main purpose of the registry, and you will include the disease or group of diseases. You will include also if there is any genetic data that will be processed or not, and also if you want to include data on population origin for an ancestry to perform such kind of research. Otherwise, you will have to delete these lines. We have put the paragraph relating to the linkage with existing databases and registries in case you will need to link and to get data from other sources. This includes the ERN registries, but also claim databases. And we have been inspired by many informed consent forms from other registries, for example, such as VASCA, who are planning also to link to Dutch national registries in order to obtain this. So this option to put it here will allow you to perform such linkage for your research purposes, and you will inform the patient, for example, by including the URL of the registry website that will contain these changes that were applied. Then there is the need of the collaboration by other stakeholders, that is that we have tried to explain to the patient, and of course stating that there is a data access committee that will govern all this, and that is the safeguard of any use of the registry data by different stakeholders. These different stakeholders, you will have to list them. It could be other researchers, clinician, patient association, policymakers, and commercial company there. Afterwards, since we are talking about commercial companies, there is the possibility, you want to have the possibility to use your registry data for profit purposes, but we call this here commercial purposes, that will result in a clinical application that is put in the market, whether it is drug or a diagnostic. It explains the need for doing so and who owns the results. And we state that the patient will be asked for his specific or her specific consent to use this data for commercial purposes. Then there is the need of the transfer of data outside of the EU that needs to be also clearly stated, and following the remark received by Ethics Committee and GDPR requirements, you need to have such data being stated, and we have also added the option to collect the consent regarding this transfer outside of the EU. After explaining the registry, the data that will be collected, the linkage, and the different potential uses by the different stakeholders that you are going to list, what will happen to the research results? And then we have provided here the paragraph and letting you to include the information on how the patient will be informed about the research results, including examples here, whether it will be on the registry website or information directly by the medical doctor. It will be up to you to adapt there. And we finish by stating that the privacy of data will always be protected as described below in the part I'm going to present afterwards. And then at the end, will I be recontacted by my medical doctor to collect new data or participate in research studies? You will need to get the consent from the patient or the legal guardian or the parent of the patient in order to be recontacted to collect additional data or to participate in other studies such as clinical trials. And here you have the paragraph stating that. And of course, a reminder that only the medical doctor following the patient will be able to contact the patient, and not any researcher will be able to do so because data is pseudonymized and protected, and there are safeguards. And also, if they do not want to participate, their care will not be changed. After having finished with the data use, we will have the part on the protection, how the privacy of the patient's data will be protected, where we state that there is a secured electronic systems, there are safeguards, we introduced the pseudonymization concept, that the data of patient will not be directly identifiable, that this possibility to re-identify the patient will only be possible by the medical doctor. We have added the possibility for you to include the name of the patient identity service that you are going to use to pseudonymize the patient, such as the UPID and what it provides. Then you have to include the information about the storage location. If you are either at the site level, if it is a registry that is federated and scattered all over many sites, or if you are using cloud service, then you need to state the name of the cloud service and where the servers are located. And we have included also some examples. Also, the duration needs to be stated as per the GDPR. Of course, if there is unlimited storage duration, as we expect for many of the registries, you need at least to define until to provide any rationale or justification for that. We have found an example from the Eureka registry, and thanks a lot, Faisal, for providing this example, where they have stated that as the registry is designed to look for longer-term outcome, the data shall be stored indefinitely, even if the patient or the registered patient person will pass away. So it will be really up to you in order to decide for this. And of course, it will be reviewed by the ethics committee, as we are going to explain afterwards in the next steps. Afterwards, you have to include also, according to each site, some hospitals, we know that they perform the review of the data that is included in the different registries, and the previous number of years at which after which the hospital will review the data that is present in the different registries is 15 years. But if it is applicable, we will leave to you this information to be provided according to your site process. Then we state here that the results will be published, and there are also safeguards to ensure that the identity of patient will not be spotted through different different means, for example, using aggregated data. And we have asked you also to provide some examples. We did not receive any feedback from you, so you will have maybe the opportunity to comment also on this during the days that are left for this week. And at the end of the storage period, what will the data be? What will happen to the data? Will you destroy it, or will you completely anonymize it? And you are asked to include information on that. After having the safety protective measures, what are the rights? So in this section, we restate that the participation is voluntary, that even if the patient consented, he has the right to withdraw or to access to his data, and we include all the details relating to who to contact, who is the data controller, usually the hospital, what is the generic email address of the data protection officer in order to request access and correction modification to the data, and according to the law, this DPO has 13 days to answer to the request. If there is any other concern, and there is the contact detail of the National Data Protection Authority that you will need to indicate at as you can see, the color code. I did not went through the color code. So the blue is for the national level. At the national level, and then at the ERN level, depending on the version, if you are going to provide a version that is customized for the parent and legal guardian, you will leave this sentence where you will include the age of reaching the legal age of how do we call it, Annalisa? Not maturity. I forgot
the age of legal competence.
Yes, the age of legal competence. And you state that if a child is included, when the child reaches the age of the legal competence, he will be approached or she will be approached in order to ask again for consent to stay in the registry. There are, at the end, additional informations, mainly coming from the feedbacks received by the ethics committee, the 35 ethics committee to which ERCnet has submitted. So among these feedbacks, you will need to state, as for a clinical trial, the potential benefit and harms for participation here. Then we wanted to discuss with you the paragraph regarding incidental findings, because we have found that some ERNs provided in their version of the ICF a text relating to incidental findings and how to deal with them. So we have added them here with the indication that it will be at the ERN discussion, and we can discuss this after this presentation, at the end of this presentation. Some ethics committee requested information about costs. So we state that there is no cost that is entailed to the patient to participate in the registry, and that the registry is a non-commercial scientific initiative of the ERN. Insurance was requested by many ethics committee at the site level, so you might need to provide information about insurance that are taken at the site level in order to ensure this registry. And then there is the final information that this informed consent was submitted to an ethics committee that you are going to cite at the site level, and you have received a number authorizing this registry through this informed consent form. And at the end, you have the main contact person to which the patient should be targeted primarily. It is the contact detail of the medical doctor or the main researcher who is medical doctor, who is put as the reference for the ERN. And at the end, of course, a reminder that the copy needs to be provided to the patient, parent, and or legally designated representative. And at the end of this 5th page, the information ends. Then we have 2 pages for the consent part, where you will put the patient, the contact details, and not the contact details, but the information on the patient, legal guardian, or parents, with the patient first name, last name, date of birth, and the ID number. We have let this ID number. It was originating from the CPMS and registry version, and we thought that many registries would have to provide this ID number, whether it is a number identifying your patient in your hospital, in order to be sure about the identity of the patient. And it's not the pseudonymization number, because the patient will need to sign this ICF before being included and pseudonymized. The patient will precise, he will precise if he is the patient or the legal guardian, and provide the names and first name and last name of this legal guardian. And then there is the part of the consent. The patient or the legal guardian of the parent will confirm that he has been informed about the registry purposes. He has read the information sheet that she has given enough time. So each time we will use he or she, so it is the patient, enough time in order to ask all the questions and resolve all doubts with the medical doctor, and put in initial each time in front of each affirmation that there is an understanding that the participation is voluntary and withdrawal is authorized anytime without affecting any medical care, that they confirm that they have received a copy for the informed consent, and that they approve that the information described above is stored in the registry for the purposes described. Then we have a specific part where we state that the consent conditions that are optional refer to the use of the data for commercial purposes, because we thought that many patients are reluctant, although it is very important for the registry to have this use, but we have added here as a specific condition, consent condition, that pseudonymized data the patient authorizes to, that his data is transferred to non-EU countries, that the patient would like to be recontacted to be proposed participation in any other interventional trial or to collect additional data, and that if you decide to maintain the information about incidental finding, that the patient would like to or not to be informed about it. And at the end, there is the consent, the signature, and the date that will authorize all the different consent conditions stated above, and it will be up to the treating physician or the person authorized to witness the consent to put the name, signature, position, and date. There are also customization, as you can see. You will adapt according to your ERN website, and you will adapt the footer and the header as well. Annalisa, shall I let you continue with the rest?
Yes.
Thank you.
I share again my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so the link to the informed consent template and to the Excel file of Duo, ICO, and Adam are included in this slide. As you can see, we also provide specific information in the Excel file of the ontologist in order to link the specific sentence of the informed consent template with them. So the next steps will be the collection of any additional comment by the end of this week, the submission to the European Network of Research Ethics Committees, EREC, the submission to the European Commission Data Protection Officer, and the development of the pediatric material and the translations. So here you can find the timeline as well as the figure as well as the link to the timeline. And till next week, we will have discussion for the pediatric material, and there is also an online implementation to be discussed. So the open question that we would like to discuss with you during this meeting are the incidental findings, if we need to keep the reference to the incidental findings in the ICF, and the implementation of an online form. So thank you so much. In this slide you can find also the acknowledgement to people providing comments to me and Yanis. Apologize if we forgot someone, and thank you so much.